I myself saw the circle officer using his own personal pistol and firing at students. He fired at least six bullets in front of me. While we were running to save ourselves, and the police is the police. One RF man can be seen in one of the videos. He is using assault rifle. Then a student got hit by pellet gun, so we can say that pellet was also used. Then at least 500 tear gas cannons and stun grenades, of course. So it the attack wasn't to disperse the crowd or to crush the movement. It was attack on our lives itself. It was planned. Like, I believe, many of us believe that it cannot be mere coincidence that two uh, premier premium Muslim minority institutions are attacked by security forces on the same day in the same brutal fashion. So this was attack on our Muslim identities. And what more?
So, what did you do afterwards? Like, where did you leave after
Hmm.
that night?
So we spent that night, I and a group of other students. We knew that we are the prime target of the police. Like, the police had communicated to us through various sources that we should back out from the movement. We were the ones, like a couple of us, a group of us were the ones who started the movement in the first place. So, like, the district magistrate of Aligarh, he called my father, who's an employee in the university. He called him and told that if I don't back out from this movement, I'll be charged under National Security Act. So we knew from various sources that we were the prime target, and they won't leave if they got hold of us. So the students who were on the target list, we spent the entire night on the terrace of Sir Syed South Hostel. It's a Victoria Gate clock tower above that. And next morning, I called my parents and I asked them to send the car, and we hid inside the near the seats. We left the campus, and then we got to know that the entire campus has been vacated, like more than 23,000 students. And that also raises one important question, like, when the policemen were detaining the students, uh, and the next morning when the campus was vacated, uh, we couldn't verify how many students were actually detained. Like, if my class room partner was missing, I would have known. I would have told people that he's missing, he must have been detained. But since the campus was vacated, we couldn't do that. And then we had to believe the number given by police. So the police said they detained 26. We have to believe that they detained 26. And I find it difficult to believe that they detained only 26 students, given the number of people they were detaining in one go. Like, they detained at least 10 to 12 students from Morrison Court. They detained the same amount of number from guest house, and I heard they detained several other students from in front of Vice Chancellor's lodge. So the number may be more, but we couldn't verify because the campus was vacated. And after that morning, we had to leave the city. My father himself asked me to leave the city, leave Aligarh district and go somewhere else. So we spent the first 3 days after 15th in hiding. We left our phones back in our home, and then we got to know that I have been booked under various serious charges. I, along with other 20 students. Charges as serious as attempt to murder, loot, rioting. We have allegedly attacked 30 police officers and the special inspector on duty, sub inspector on duty. We snatched his pistol and bullet and ran away. These kind of stories were floated by the police, and then FIRs about them came. Uh, in public domain. So since then we are in hiding, like the ones who are in police list, we aren't. So this is one of the tools instrument the police uses. Like it has been done in past as well. Like they'll name 25 students in an FIR, then they'll have 1,000 other unnamed students. So even after 6 months, some students do some kind of activism inside the campus, and then reveal their name in the FIR filed 6 months ago. That you were also, we in our investigation we got to know that you were also involved in that case, and that kind of witch hunting has been going on for like past 6 months, past 2 years in fact, and a number like more than if we go by numbers alone, more than 7,000 students of AMU have been booked under various cases. The movement was first started. Media isn't talking about that, but the movement was first started in, at least in mainland India, the movement was started by the AMU students, and we call that movement Muslim Lives Matter, and we did that for a reason. We believe, like most of the students of AMU, we believe that this was attack on our Muslim identity alone. It was attack on our Muslim identity. Then it could be anything: attack on constitution, attack on secular fabric of India, or attack on the idea of India itself. But even at the first look of it, the bill is clearly, explicitly anti-Muslim, and we should, call it what it is. It is Islamophobic. It isn't like this is not the first time any anti-Muslim Islamophobic bill has come in Parliament, was tabled and passed in Parliament. Other governments as well have done similar things, be it Zamindari Act, be it Enemy Property Act, so on. Our movement was not just to reject Citizenship Amendment Bill or NRC. Our movement was also a fight for the self-respect and dignity of Muslims as a community in India, and which was taken for granted for a very, very long time. So we were fighting for that as well. But now that the movement has spread in different parts of the country, people are, taking the movement. They are taking the first part of the movement, rejecting CAB and NRC, but they aren't talking about the second part of the movement we started. That is the Muslim question. A lot of people are, almost everybody is now saying that this is a legal issue, that they are discussing on the legalities of the bill, how it violates certain articles of the constitution, so on and so forth. But this is not a legal issue, this is an ethical issue, and the premise of that ethics is that this bill is anti-Muslim, and several other anti-Muslim bills have come and tabled in Parliament in past 70 years. So instead of discussing why such anti-Muslim Islamophobic bills are coming in Parliament, they are discussing the legalities of this particular bill, which is what we are resisting. We are fighting against Islamophobia, not just against CAB and NRC.
So, what is a genocidal project? Like people are talking about a genocidal project that is orchestrated by BJP.
This is at least this is a well-known fact that BJP is the offspring of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS), founded by Golwalkar and Hedgewar, Savarkar, these people. So this guy Golwalkar has written in his book that there are only two things that can be done with the minorities. Namely, he named Muslims and Christians specifically, saying that either they should subsume their Muslim identity, their Christian identity, and merge into the national race. He calls it national race. Apparently all the Indic religions belong to one national race, and only Muslims and Christians are not part of that national race. So either we merge with that national race by leaving our Muslim and Christian identities back at home, or we should leave the country. That was the plan he suggested. And going by the speech of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, and several other BJP leaders, even the law enforcement officers like SSP of Meerut, he said openly called a Muslim and said that you should go to Pakistan. So their idea is to make Muslims and Christians stateless so that they can they can take their Hindutva project to another level. They want to establish that Manusmriti kind of society where Brahmins are the upper class, then and Dalits are the slaves. That kind of idea, and they are working on that kind of idea for a very long time. I don't know why. We have known the genocidal intentions of the government for a long time. They have been anti-Muslim since they were formed, and we cannot ignore that fact. I don't know why people aren't talking about that. This bill is indeed genocidal.